Hello, welcome to this episode of Al's Joint. Me and my co-host, Dennis Painter, will take on some of the hot topics in Washington, D.C. So as we pay homage to the Temptations and I Want to Love I Can See, let's take the gloves off and let's get at it. Hello, Brother Painter. We got another full week of madness out of Washington, D.C. I think we should jump into the Charlie Kirk shooting and the aftermath and the attempt by the right to turn his shooter, Tyler Robinson, into a progressive leftist all of a sudden.
Well, before any investigation had been done, Trump and his administration were saying that it was the leftist radicals that was behind the shooting before they even had any evidence. That's what they were saying. It presented them with an opportunity not to tell the truth, but to further divide this country because they knew that Charlie Kirk had a faithful following. And on CNN, the White House Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, said, and I'm quoting, the left-wing organizations were promoting violence. Well, we all know who he was talking about. He was talking about, anybody that disagrees with Trump, talking about the Democratic Party, and that we were promoting violence. Which, we talked about last week. That's pretty ridiculous since, the Democrats have long been against free, total gun control and advocates for some kind of reduction in gun rights. So to turn that around and say all of a sudden now we're the violent ones, I think is pretty ridiculous. The other part of who they're talking about as being leftist is any person on the media that criticizes. They also are the terrorists, according to the White House Chief of Staff Miller. Although he couldn't provide any proof of what he said on CNN, that was what they were saying. Now, obviously, it energized Trump's base.
Well, Tyler Robinson, 22-year-old from Utah, whose grandmother is MAGA, grandfather is MAGA, his mother is MAGA, his father is MAGA, and he's with MAGA. Yet, after the shooting, all of a sudden became a leftist because the right claims, allegedly, that he was dating a transgender. So I guess they believe that your party is based on your sexual orientation?
Well, I think the other side of the message is that the only people on the left are people with different lifestyle. And that's what's all out there. If you're not against them, then you're for, gay rights and transgender rights and that type of thing. On NBC, the Utah Governor Cox out the gate stated it was very clear to him and the investigators, and I'm quoting, that Robinson was very different from his family, who are registered Republicans. And the message Cox wanted viewers to believe is if Robinson was a Republican, he would not have killed Charlie Kirk. And that's the message they want out there, aside from him being different. And the difference goes to having gay rights and maybe a relationship that the red states and the Republicans don't agree with.
So they canceled Jimmy Kimmel for making a statement that was 100% true, that you had this far right-wing kid who disagreed with something that the far right-wing folks were saying, and he did something that was atrocious, right? Something that none of us would ever condone. That doesn't take away from the fact that he was a far right-wing MAGA cult member. He was, and what Jimmy Kimmel said was absolutely correct. And as the time that we're doing this episode, Jimmy Kimmel has been slated to be put back on TV. But in this crazy political world, we don't know what'll happen. I'll believe it when I see it, but rightfully so, he should be returned. Now, I hope he comes back unapologetic because he didn't do anything or he didn't say anything wrong.
Well, what I've seen, what I've read so far is he's coming back within the next couple of days. They have had some meetings with him about what was said, and that's yet to be seen. I'm still concerned about the message that Trump and his administration have jumped on, and it's what they want us to believe is you cannot trust anything the media says unless it comes directly from the Trump administration. Governor Cox stated part of the problem was that Robinson was deeply indoctrinated with the leftist ideology. That's the message they want to say, and that's not democracy. And you said it, I've said it. We're not trying to get people to change their party. What we want people to do is look at what's going on in this country and correct the problems, okay? And call, a lie a lie. Don't excuse a lie by saying, well, the other party lied too. And I think it's horrible that any person is murdered. I think it's horrible that any person thinks that killing Charlie Kirk or anyone else for political reasons is the right thing to do for this country. It is not. I think it's horrible that there's someone out there that believes that killing people is part of democracy. It is not. And I think that this only feeds into the hands of Trump and what he wants to do. And that's to declare martial law and unrest so there won't be any midterm elections. His long-term plan is he's going to be the king.
And I have a problem with some of the media outlets, MSNBC, CNN. I'm concerned that they're not taking the right's message and running with it, but they're not pushing back. They have a responsibility to say, let us do our own investigation. Tyler Robinson was a far right-wing nut, right? And I don't say that specifically for him. I think anybody who's following MAGA and their agenda, to me, are their far right-wing nuts. He's just part of that group. And just because he does something, you don't get to say, okay, he's a leftist, just because you say so. And then you have President Trump and his minions, right? They go out there preaching that over and over again so they can actually convince themselves. And when I say themselves, I mean they're cult members that what we're saying is true. That the far left is responsible for violence, even though all the data points to the opposite. All the serial killers, the mass shooters, they're predominantly young white males with a far right-wing mentality.
I don't know whether you do. I get on Facebook and I respond to some of this stuff that's on there. And the rudest, crudest, and most vulgar people on there are those who are Trump supporters. And they don't respond with intelligence. When I say that is, you have a right to your opinion. You have a right to voice that opinion. You have a right to say, I think you are wrong. But do it in an intelligent manner. Do it in a manner that you put forth an intelligent argument, some facts to back it up, other than saying, you don't like it, get out of the country, then call you names.
History tells us, right? If the far right have a problem with when they protest abortion, what do? They shoot abortion doctors. They blow up abortion clinics. That the history is there. When somebody is campaigning for more human rights, JFK, RFK, MLK, what do? They silence them. They kill them. History has shown that the far right reacts violently when somebody tries to take away what they think is their God-given right to be the sole citizens of this country. But for the Trump administration and his minions to go out there preaching that takes it to a whole different level because they're continuing to push towards a civil war in this country.
Pushing for violence is what they're pushing for. When they're saying we're violent, then they're going to end up saying the only answer to violence is more violence. That's the only way to stop it. And the reality, what they're preaching is a lie, number one. But number two is if they can find a reason to have martial law, they're going to do that. If they can find a reason to stop the elections, they're going to do that. But they're the ones that's preaching the violence. And their message is consistently, if you're different, have different ideas and different thoughts, then you're our enemy. And if you see what happened right after the Charlie Kirk shooting, some of the media came out, the conservative media, and said this is war. And that's what they're pushing for. Civil war leads to what? It leads to no free country and less rights for people. You can have all the sympathy in the world for Charlie Kirk or anyone else in their family, but you need to take a look at what's going on. There's an effort to reduce the rights of all people in this country. I represent some public sector type government workers in a way. Twice a month, I go to meetings, sometimes 3. And we make an allegiance to the flag of the United States of America for the rights of all people. It doesn't say for the rights to the left, for the rights of the right. It says for all people. And the same is supposed to be for the Constitution. It doesn't say we, the white citizens, or we on the right or the left. It says we, the people. I'm really concerned that it's getting turned into, it's not we, the people, it's we who believe like Trump believes.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, though, that although Project 25 had rails that they built to try to implement certain things, the Epstein files threw a wrench in that plan. So instead of them being able to go smooth and try to bamboozle and hoodwink folks at a slower pace, they had to push everything because now they have to distract. So now everything's going at 100 miles an hour when they wanted to have things in cruise control. I believe, and I'll tell in every episode that we tape, I'm going to make sure folks understand that I believe that Donald Trump is a pedophile. He's part of that pedophile ring. I believe the first lady was involved with the pedophile ring. I think that when he was in England, there were folks in a royal family who were part of the pedophile ring. So that's why they welcomed him there, because they're okay with that. But the cover up is not only or do you have the Epstein files, but you have the price of gas continuing to go up, the price of grocery continuing to go up. The unemployment numbers are bad. The countless wars that he swore that he would stop on day one, that he hasn't even slowed them down. They've gotten worse. Israel is committing genocide in Palestine. Russia is continuing to kill thousands of citizens in Ukraine. And Trump hasn't been able to do anything. He's become a joke on the national stage.
Well, he was a joke the first time around, and that hasn't changed. I mean, he has not done, as far as I can see, anything that he claims he's going to do other than start removing people of different color. Now, he said he was going to do that, and that's what he's doing. Now, is he doing it legally? I don't think so. Is he doing it by Constitution? I don't think so. In terms of all the things that you said, he's a failure. In terms of inflation, he's a failure. In terms of employment, I live out in farm country, okay? He's alienated China, which 30% farmer soybean crop went to China. No more. They haven't ordered any. So he's hurting everyone all along the line. Now, farmers generally are conservatives, okay? Let's face it, they just are, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they are getting hurt. But it amazes me why people continue to stand behind someone that's hurting them. It's like somebody stabbing you in the back, and you just keep standing there and saying, oh, he's a good guy, and they just keep stabbing you. All the way around, this country is worse off.
That's why he's trying to get the redistricting done in certain states. I think he knows that those folks have seen through him. Finally, I'm not talking about the 32 to 35% of the MAGA cult members. It doesn't matter. We're not talking to them. Those folks, they'll justify pedophilia just to make sure that they stay on the train, right? But everybody else, the other folks that he needs to get reelected or to maintain a House and a Senate, I think he realizes he's losing them. I see that with the protests over the First Amendment rights, that America is starting to push back. In his first term, he inherited a Mercedes-Benz from Obama. And the only thing he had to do is get in it and drive it correctly. Obama brought this country back from the brink of financial disaster, and he had the country moving on all cylinders, and Trump inherited that. The first catastrophe that he had to face was COVID, and he failed miserably. And he plunge this country back into the abyss. Biden was able to bring it back. Folks didn't want to give him more time, but he was able to bring the country back from that catastrophe that Trump created. And now Trump had to work from a place where the country's not in dire need. They needed a strong leader with a strong economic plan, and he was not that president. He wasn't the president the first term. It showed here, his warts are showing. Now he has to figure out how to stay in power because he's not going to be able to do it because of his policies. And he has to find another way, and that's where this whole push to be able to make sure they rig the midterm so he can try to maintain control is coming to play.
Well, I think all of this, there's being pushback from his own party and not from the elected officials. And once again, I'm not calling them elected leaders, they're officials, but they're not leading. But there's some pushback within his own party, and that's growing now for various reasons. And part of it is because he didn't make the Epstein files public like he said he was going to do. He claimed they didn't even exist. And he tells people what they want to hear to get elected. But then when they demand that he follow through, he can't. He was a real estate dealer. He was a salesman. And that's what he's comfortable with, is selling people, a piece of crap, as long as they buy it. And unfortunately, the American people have bought it, and we're paying the price.
It pains me that not only is he morally corrupt, he's probably one of the stupidest presidents that we've ever had in the history of this country. Some of the stuff that he's done and said, those individual comments would have just took any other candidate out of the race, right? Just the stupidity from curing COVID by ingesting bleach. Folks just let that go. Now, his newest one is that he's telling pregnant women that Tylenol causes autism and that folks during their pregnancy should not, even though all the other studies have proven otherwise, him and Robert Kennedy, whatever the hell his name is, he may have autism. Right, all the drugs he's done, I don't know. Maybe they should ask him how the hell he survived all these years. But the legal ramifications of what he's doing and the medical ramifications are going to be felt for a while. You're not going to be able to unring the bell what he's told his base now. If you're pregnant, you have a fever, the issues that you're having, don't take Tylenol, which is one of the few remedies to that, right? I was looking at some of the medical experts come on to dispute him, but are they going to be able to undo what people have heard? Those folks are going to say, oh, if I have a fever, I can't take anything. I just got to gut it out. The medical experts are saying that's going to have an even worse effect on your unborn child.
Well, Al, this is just another distraction. He's just throwing stuff out there to stay off the Epstein files. Let's take care of a problem. This is the problem. Let's get the Epstein files out there. Let's find out who they are, what they are. And I mean, he's trying to promote himself now as the law and order type person by bombing boats down in Venezuela. He's tough on crime. I saw a thing with Kash Patel, the FBI director, saying we're going after sex offenders. Well, there's nothing that says that we're going after the Epstein files. We're going to make those public or talk to the women that were abused by Epstein and his followers. So I see all of this as just a bunch of show and tell. I don't know that you can get through to people who won't consider another alternative or position, not a party, to say, hey, look, well, maybe there's something to this. I think Trump is mentally unstable. Hitler was mentally unstable and ended up taking his own life. And Trump is like Hitler. He's turning everybody against each other. He's turning this country, dividing this country, and he's going to cause a civil war because he thinks he's great. And he's doing it based off of race, just like Hitler did.
Hitler probably would feel insulted if you compared Trump to him because at least Hitler was smart and Trump is like I said, one of the stupidest presidents that we've ever had, and that's saying a lot from his party, right? But it is what it is. I just think that when you come out and you make comments like he made this week about Tylenol and autism, I think that you don't take time to explain to folks that there are other options. You're going to have folks adjusting what they do without doing any research, and folks are going to suffer, and the children are going to suffer because of that. And I think that's criminal. And I hope that Tylenol sues the hell out of him because he couldn't pronounce the ingredient in Tylenol, which is in a lot of brands, right?
Right.
So he just put out Tylenol. I just don't understand how his staff would have told him, you can't say that. So I blame his whole administration. To me, is the blame for the situation we're in, and it was coming down the pike.
I wonder, Al, if anyone control what comes out of his mouth, including him. That's why I say he's mentally unstable. He tells one lie and turns around and says, a week later, the opposite of the lie before. There's something wrong with the man, and he needs to be taken out of office. Now, I don't like the idea of JD Vance being in office, but I don't see the mental instability in him that I see in Trump.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure we'll be looking at a whole slew of other issues that pop up this week. I don't know what to say anymore. Every time I think that we've kind of settled in and we can start concentrating on the damage, he does more damage. So, Mr. Painter, I'll see you next week on the next episode. We'll continue to make sure that we fight to keep our country in the hands of everyday Americans.
I encourage everyone to speak up for what is right and to stand on the right side of history. I'll see you.
Take care. Thanks for watching this episode of Al's Joint. Don't forget to hit share, like, and subscribe. And please leave your comments below. I want to know what you're thinking. Unless you're a far right-wing MAGA nut, I don't give a damn what you're thinking. Until next week, peace.
This episode of Al's Joint is brought to you by the Peabody Highlander 1975 through 1981 Class Reunion Committee.